Okay, we are training. It's October 7th for the Tai Chi World Cup. We got James and Alona representing the U.S. team, U.S. Tai Chi push hands team. So this is going to be awesome. And we're going to work on neutralization today. And so you guys, my question to you guys is, do you do the rooting drills that we practiced in the past? That's my first question.
Which reading drills are we doing?
Uh, the catch and throw.
For
One, two.
example, the rooting drill where, I'll put this up here, the rooting drill where one person pushes.
Mm-hmm.
Pushing.
Yeah.
The other person is expanding their arms like wings and rooting into the ground and rolling the shoulders forward. So it's arms rolling the triceps out, shoulders forward, and spiraling into the stance. You guys.
So you're gonna come in to me.
Okay.
Okay, pause right there, and come back to great. Hands on the shoulders. Okay, so who's gonna push and who's gonna receive?
I'm receiving.
You're gonna receive the push. Okay, so Alona, your hands are gonna be. Pause 1 second. Just stay still 1 second. Let's get the posture right. So James's hands are on your shoulders. Alona, your hands are on the bottom of the triceps elbow area. Yeah, awesome. And Tony knows. So for both of you, but mostly for Alona. James, what you're going to be practicing is one, you're going to be creating rhythm, establishing rhythm. So that's uh, your focus. And the next thing, James, you're going to be doing is focusing on proper push technique. When I say proper, I mean dropping your hips below your opponent's hips and then pushing up. And let's pause on your pushes for a moment, James, and get Alona into her structure. So Alona, you're going to remember you're breaking pressure in 3 points. You're breaking it one by lifting his triceps out. So the second you feel pressure, it activates like the button in your big toe. So your big toe on your front leg pushes into the ground. You start inflating your triceps to roll his triceps out, and your shoulders start to come forward rather than up, but forward. Shoulder blades disappearing in because you're crimping the pressure on his wrists. So James, you should feel your fingers rolling back. And for this exercise, getting a little bit lower, your target, James, is going to be a little lower around the top of the pectoral minor. And like, let's say pectoral minor to the shoulder, this area, and you're going to be pressing there. Yeah. So Alona, exactly. So you can feel the roll forward. And Alona, also recognizing that your left hip should be melting into the right groin. So as you're dropping down and inflating to create this pressure circuit, you're dropping down, inflating, inhaling as you feel the push, pressing your big toe into the ground. So you're allowing your left knee to fall down to the ground as well. That left knee collapses with the left hip into the right groin. And so the expression for you guys, both of you guys, should look very minimal. So if you find yourself doing some sort of flowing exercise, that's something different. What you want to get here, James, is you want to establish the rhythm of pushing just a little and then relaxing.
Okay.
Pushing a little bit more and then relaxing. And then Alona, what we're looking to find for you is one that 70% of your weight stays on that front leg while you're 70% of your weight stays on that front leg. And then as James's pushes are real. So that means that James, as you're pushing, Alona, you should be feeling eventually his legs through the push. And ideally, especially for those who are either less experienced and or who are losing their focus, you're going to start feeling their back heel, as if it's like the pivot point of their entire body. That's how your structure should inspire tension down their back leg at some point, and then you can start turning your opponent on that pivot point. And so really take it slow. And when I say rhythm, I mean, a rhythm. Remember fighting. Let's just guys, just let's before you keep doing that. Remember that fighting is broken rhythm, like that, and so all the sparring, everything we're doing is actually a broken rhythm. So it's about you creating rhythm in patterns that are constantly shifting. So James, you're gonna push a little, relax, push a little, relax, push a little more, relax, push a little more, relax, and that's gonna throw off the pattern for Alona. And because you're training this broken rhythm, this is something you want to bring into your sparring game, which means that you might give a little pressure, relax, and then double up pressure and relax. You know, so you're training yourself on exactly. Move a little bit farther back. Great. And there might be like 30 seconds where nothing happens, and that's okay. And you want to slow it down even more, meaning that slow the intervals down and make the pressure more solid. Because the only way Alona is going to get, either of you are going to get strength from this is time under tension. So you have to really feel like you can take a full push and not be moved, because all the pressure is going down. Alona, you're creating the circuit for yourself. So it's all going into the ground. James, for this exercise, let's lengthen your stance a little bit so you can get a little lower and get your head a little farther away. Great. And then you're going to push forward, in and up to the corner, and just give her one solid push. And, yeah, to the upper corner of the room. Give her one solid push to the upper corner. Yeah, straight. So flipping her hips over, her shoulders over her hips. You're going to aim to the upper corner. Yeah, the corner behind her. So if the ceiling has a corner, aim for the corner of the ceiling behind Alona. James, exactly.
No, he meant right there.
Yeah. So you're gonna drop your hips. You're gonna drop your hips and align your shoulders to that corner. So not your shoulders, your hands. So I'm dropping my hips and I'm pushing up, up, up. Yeah. So give her one of those, and make sure you give her some work, which means keep your elbows down, James. Not too much that she can't get the work out of it, but don't go with it as much when she rolls your pressure out. And Lona, remember, I can see that your right hip is a little spiraled back. So keep softening the right hip into the left groin. And part of how you do that is softening your right knee, so that knee falls to the ground. So this should be done, like, first of all, it's going to work the intercostal muscles immensely, but definitely doing this every other day, it's going to be important. Good stuff. There we go.
Okay.
You feel it?
Yeah. Now we're getting it. Okay.
Awesome. So just to note, and I'll share a video on this too, but you should be taking one entire breath while you're taking that pressure in, Alona. So while you're taking the pressure, one entire breath, and when you can't inhale anymore, there's a strategy for exhaling and eating more space. So the concept is you're redirecting pressure and eating space the entire time. You're never giving up. You're only taking the entire time. And so I'll share that video, but essentially as you exhale, you sink even more into it, and then you inhale and inflate and pull them more apart. So just to be focus on this one, I'll share that video because there's, I think, better detail in there. We can always talk about it. But James, why don't you go for it? Alona, practice on you. So Alona, remember, you're the first thing that you guys want to do is make sure that both of you are in the ready stance. So James, if your front leg keeps coming off, that means you haven't set up yet. And so take your left hip, relax it into your right groin. And one of the ways that I always remind myself is I physically take my hand, the blade of my palm, and I just slice down I slice down the lead leg. So I know that this is the area that I should feel creasing even more. And you can just take the blade, place it in, and relax this hip in. So just test yourself. Take your right knee and your right hip. Because remember, the whole point here is to spiral, to get the coil effect. So you want to have the coil effect activate as you're receiving the pressure. And that's part of how you're redirecting pressure from your partner. Okay, pause right there. Pause on the push. You go for that again, but pause when you receive the push, James. Great, pause right there. Okay, now just make an adjustment. Push the shoulder blades forward more. So it pushes on her fingers. So you want to roll her, it's called crimping. You want to roll the fingers back because that's point number 2 of where you're, yeah, exactly. And you also want to be super cautious, James, especially when you're playing with a partner who's that much has that much of a height difference. But this is really for anybody. Is that when you're doing the crimping motion, that your chin, for your own protection, stays slightly outside of the shoulder line, of their shoulder line, because their shoulder can pop up and hit you in the face. And so you just want to be cautious. You don't want to you don't want to take that in the face. Just a note for your posture. Good stuff. And so Ilona, even more forward. So Ilona, given the height difference, you don't necessarily have to work to drop your hips beneath his. So it's important to note that. And when you do the drop, because the drop is important mechanically to get the launch of the push, when you do the drop, make yours so that you get enough of that bounce or that jump. It's almost Grandmaster Chen would say that you're jumping into the stance. So that drop down and then jumping out of it. Yeah. And remember, we're doing this slow motion so that both of you guys are working all those mechanics and ideas, but slowly so that you can feel how get all the rest of the data on how to redirect the pressure. Yeah, and remember, James, part 3 of the redirection is your posture. So if you find yourself leaning too much, like right now, your nose is past your knee, so it would likely mean that your nose is past your knee on your right side, and your left leg, the coil is being left behind a little bit. So just soften so that you spiral down more into that front leg. Because if someone read that on your body, they might lift you from your left side to turn you towards your right leg because it's left behind. It's slightly coiling out. So just soften inward as you're doing the same thing a little bit more. Good stuff. Good stuff. Excellent stuff. So James, do you feel the difference in your last 2 pushes? In the last 2 receiving the pushes you received for like in your body? Can you describe the difference between the last two and the one before that?
It's hard to, yes, it's kind of blurry a little bit.
Okay.
I intuitively get it, but it's hard for me to separate out in time.
Sure. So from the outside looking in, for me, there's a clarification of willpower, and like what you did in the last two, your willpower was super solid. Ilona, I would defer to you on your experience of his body. Did you feel any difference between the on the last three, but specifically the last two compared to the third of that group?
Yeah, it there was a lid on it. I couldn't get the lid off. You know?
Okay.
Because I started warming up, so I was pushing harder on the last two. Like the first ones, I don't want to hurt my body, but as I start to warm up, like she doesn't need any warm up time compared to me. It takes me a long time, like until I get a sheen of sweat. Like that's really one of the challenges in the whole tournament play, is that I need a lot of warm up time to go in without hurting myself compared to other people. You know, in the last two pushes, then I was my body was starting to warm up because I did it on the other side, and I did it on that side, and then I went to the maximum, and then I stopped because, you know, that was I could only do a couple at that maximum level without, you know, starting to feel like I'm going to be worse for wear over a period of time. You know, to get the maximum level without exceeding it for the tournament coming up. And if I could just blow out like a tournament day, I could recover. But if I keep hitting it, you know, on the way into the tournament, my body will be worse off. You know, overworking out. Like my level has always been very low, but I'm able to get past that disability in myself compared to other people by warming up and knowing where my limits are, and smoothly over time building up the skill to some degree, and then coupling the skill with being warmed up for the tournament level play.
Okay. Well, I'll say this: the lock in, we'll call it like you locked in body, you know, body, mind, spirit, but like more or so like focus and body mechanic on the last two. And so when I say willpower, to me, it's really like your breath work, your body mechanic, and the clarity of your presence are all like there. And
I started to see gray, you know, like I could feel my brain responding to that level of pressure, and I need to have that pressurization going into the tournament. You know, another way we get it is by carrying each other around when we're at the peak of our exhaustion, or, you know, once we're warmed up, and then by carrying alone like this and going 1001, 1002, 1003 while I'm carrying her. Maybe that's like the 250-pound rock, that the legend of the 250-pound rock that you told us about at Chengxi School.
I got to get some of those videos up. They're all in New York. Oh, I'm going to New York. Okay, I'm going to go pick up all those videos, because I actually have, I don't want it to be a legend. I want it to be very clear so people can see it. So I have
the surfers go on the bottom. The ones who do the giant waves, they take a giant rock and they run along the bottom of the ocean underwater with the giant rock. That's training to do those giant waves in Hawaii.
So the reason I wanted to do some start out with the you guys said you wanted to do neutralization, and the reason I wanted to start out with the rooting drill, and we should probably do the variation of the rooting drill so you just have that. But essentially, like, neutralization and rooting to me are very connected, because the concept is how do you trick the part of the concept is how do you trick somebody into believing something can't move, or that there's more pressure than there is, etc. And obviously, like, that's a trick is not a word that I think we use too much in Tai Chi, but that's I was contemplating that earlier today. It's like the neutralization. That's the reason I want to bring this out. Is because you can start practicing some of that just casually at home, even while you're sitting down on a.
It obeys the saying in The Art of War that he says, "Make your opponent think that any further aggression would be futile."
Exactly, and so for that somebody to essentially try to give you to go in one direction and give up because they feel your strength is too great, and what you're really doing is just taking their strength and making them feel their own strength, and then get tired of it. So that's what the pressure circuit is. And let's do the adjustments so you guys can do this on your own at home. James, can you push on Alona's belly? And
Okay.
the belly version is going to be Alona, your hands are still going to be on the tricep elbow area. And now this time, the only difference is rather than inflating your shoulders forward, you're going to inflate the belly forward. And you're going to have enough sensitivity on wherever the palms are to move the belly. So see how I'm doing these slight movements in my abdomen to like put pressure on the sides to essentially wave the abdomen and help to redirect the pressure just slightly. Any slight redirect is a win when you chain them together. So remember, let's keep the hands right on the elbows for this. Yeah, right on the elbows, base of the tricep. And James, your push is going to be like, let's check your hands.
So I've got two methods. One is to direct down and one is to direct up.
Sorry, say it again.
What angle should I move him at? Because now I'm exploring and I'm finding it useful to think of directing his hands down because then they're off of me.
She gets me on a bad angle, but we really want that angle. So let me push up into you and really get an angle where I can get that force, right?
In general, when we do any of these exercises, like just I would recommend do the exercise straight first and then experiment with the variations, because the reason we're doing the exercise, the base drill, is because we know it's repeatable. And so
and I can take it off in any direction. That was my question.
Okay, can you take it up in any direction? For this,
the problem is,
drills,
as far as a rooting drill goes, if I can get a good grip on her, I can give her more force. But if she just deflects even slightly, I've lost it at this angle.
Well, so remember, you're still doing the rhythm. So I think the when you guys started the previous exercise, the challenge was that once the move is done, the game seems like it's finished. But what the real game is how can both of you stay under pressure? So you're both practicing your proper technique. So James, you're definitively, sometimes I also push with knuckles. So just like there's sometimes I'll do that. But for the most part, and for the purpose of this exercise, James, give her palms on the belly, because
I think my wrist won't take it.
Okay. So that's fine. Alona, you should just know that the pressure on the wrists that might be preventing James from doing it is exactly the thing you want to go for. So you want to crimp using your belly, rolling. Okay. Great. And have the hands on the. So let's James, give her a little bit. And Alona, we're slowing this down too. So here, let me give the example right here. So for you guys, if remember the exercise, if you find yourselves doing this and then going back to it, there's a you want to remove that part from the experience. In other words, like neither of you should be stopping and coming back, because that means that you're giving up too early. So the game is to play under pressure the entire time, similar to when you it's the opposite of the flowing drills that we do in push hands to prepare for any of the push hand sports stuff. So you want to stay under direct pressure, rolling. So I'm Alona's roll right now. I have my hands positioned on the elbows. I'm inflating the belly. I still have my shoulder blades pushing forward, but not as intensely as before because the palms are on my belly. I inflate out, and then when the person pushing softens, that's when I soften. And I'm listening to them, Alona, in your role. I'm listening for, it's that old Tai Chi, the axiom, if the opponent doesn't move, you don't move. But if the opponent moves, you move first. So you listen for the bubbling thought in your opponent. And then as you start to feel the pressure, you only give as much as you need. And that's what's going to avoid you to avoid that little break and come back. Because if one of you is breaking, that means that one of you is giving too much. So you're soften. And so the person pushing is doing the same thing. Pushing. Oh, I'm going to soften up because they're going to redirect me. I'm going to push more. Oh, I'm going to soften up because they're going to redirect me. So you don't want to get to the point where you're talking about redirection right now, because the point of this drill is the pressure, the pressure of it. And then strategically, we use drills like this to create momentary, like fraction of a second walls and experiences, so that someone meets you and then boom, you immediately redirect. You're so sensitive, you can immediately create this pressure circuit and then transition to the next move, whether that's an arm drag or taking the back or a big push, etc. But these moments save you from getting pushed out of the ring or getting moved anywhere you want, anywhere that your opponent wants. So
I started to feel that. I just want to say this is exactly why I asked to work on rooting and neutralization today, because I'm in this mode of, it's very helpful. I'm starting to feel that rooting.
Awesome. So let's both take it from that standpoint of listening so much to each other that you don't lose the connection. And Alona, hands aim for the elbows, yeah. Because remember, it's still a 1, 2, 3, and you're breaking a pressure. And Alona, soften your right hip into your left groin, and your right knee drops to the ground. Awesome. James, why don't you take a half step back so that you can get more structure of a push on her belly. Alona, if you're dealing with knuckles, think about how you can move the belly to flip the knuckles, to roll the knuckles toward each other or on different angles, so the pressure starts to reduce, which means that, James, you'd be losing ground. If she's neutralizing your position, you start losing ground, and that's when you soften and prepare for your next push. So the second you feel her doing that, you're like, oh, okay. It's a constant circuit.
Switch. Okay.
Remember, you're inhaling, inflating the belly as you're sinking into that front leg, coiling into the front leg. Beautiful. And Alona, for your push, previously we were talking about the upper corner. This time you're really feeling the abdomen, and you're really feeling his breath work. And you can think about almost trying to pump the air out of his belly so that your hands are coming in and you're squeezing on different angles, because this type of sensitivity is going to be super helpful. When you're listening to someone's breathing, you might be playing with somebody, you hear the breath, you see them breathing heavily, and then at the apex of the exhalation or the inhalation, you give them a pop, and it disrupts their breath for like a second. So they're surprised and that they can't get all the breath in that they want, or that they can't exhale the way that they wanted, and that just gives you a split second to do something else.
So we can play it like 100%, 90%, 100%, 90% like that.
You build up to it, but I'm saying that regardless of how hard you're playing, the strategy remains the same, and so the strategy doesn't change even if you're moving at 10%.
70%, 60%, 70%, 80%, 70%, 80%, 70%, like that kind of fluctuation where it's a small fluctuation. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can go from 10 to 100 and then back to 20. Like, you can, and because that's true broken rhythm. So you want to, but in the beginning, you start out slow so you guys warm up your mechanics and your mind for it, and then you start to play more intensely.
Yeah.
So James, I want to give a compliment here and a note. The way your elbows are coming out, it's you can really see the inflation of your tricep. So you can really feel, I can feel it through the screen of you inhaling, and it's almost as if strings are pulling your elbows apart. And so it's great to see that. And Alona, connecting to one of your earlier comments of what to do next when you have that kind of structure, which is counterintuitive because a lot of people are going to be trying to defend the underhook here. So that like you'll see folks keep their elbows down, and which is a viable strategy for certain moments. So you might be, someone's pushing on you and you're keeping your elbows down, but then you might lift out, and there's a reasoning and there's a strategy behind that. So if you were lifting out like James is doing, what you're essentially setting yourself up for is, for James, you're setting the opponent up for, you're lifting out and then coming in and crossing over for like an arm drag. So you lift out, transition one hand to the wrist as the other hand goes across. So boom. So you get this little cut, and your arms are already in the shape that you're going to do the drag in, so that you're literally up. Here, I'll actually show you the structure. So it's important to note that, like, just to take note of these moments where you have my elbows are up, and let's say I want to take this arm, the opponent's right arm, and drag it across the body. So my belly's coming up. I'm creating more tension or more pressure here, and now I'm going to take it away. Taking I'm creating space with the belly right here. So that's a 1, 2, and 3 are happening at the same time. 1, 2, and 3, pushing the wrists in and reaching the arm across. So I'm literally you're passing the wrist through the body, and then you can do a gentle drag or take the back, etc. But it's just important to and it should feel like a 1-2. Like there's a bunch of details within the 1-2 that you can break them down more and more. But inhaling, creating the space, or creating the pressure that you're going to take away. So I'm emphasizing whatever hand is trying to that I want to drag through, and then boom, I push it through, and that push through. Once you get the pass, the opponent's going to slide through already. So you don't even need to do the drag part. You can just do the pass part, but then you can continue with the drag and move them. Yep. Nice. And you see how well that works for fixed step. It's huge for fixed. Huge deal.
Nice. Yeah, I'm accidentally sending her this way. I was trying to set up for the pull so hard I ended up cranking her.
Again, always remember the core intention of the drill first, so that it doesn't get too sloppy, and that because if it degrades, then it's going to be tough to pull off in the competition. So you want your brain to link into the drill is really for the pressure, to creating that pressure circuit, and then being able to make your decisions from there. And then whatever decisions compartmentalize, like, okay, one decision I can make is this arm drag or this pop, which is a pass. You're really just passing them through, and then you can do the drag after. So that's a 1, 2, 3, like pressure circuit, pass them through, drag, and get them to step a little bit farther. And so, and then you can do other stuff like, hey, I'm doing that crank. Dad does that all the time. He'll take the pressure on the belly, lift the arms up, and then just turn the person to get them off. And that's its own technique. So clarifying that in the mind is going to help you drill that more. And these are like the advanced subtleties that you can play with in your own lab during the week and say, I like that. I want to bring that into my game.
Yeah, Tom Modernist showed up a couple of months ago for practice with a great move on the edge of the circle. And it was just like he says your father was doing. Start to push. Push hard as you can. Where he wants you to go.
It's just I see it coming.
Yeah. It feels like what you're saying your father was doing. Tom Modernist really had a smooth technique for it a couple of months ago when he showed up. Oh, yeah.
So Tom Otterness is the guy who taught me how to play from here. Because he defends so much and can play like this. The last time I played with him, and this is actually a really powerful. And this actually leads to my next question to you guys, and we'll do a little bit more on. I want to talk about why I brought this out, but first, the a question I was going to ask you guys is: are you playing from various positions? Let's say like in jiu-jitsu, someone may start on your back. Or someone may start with an underhook or an overhook, etc. So are you guys doing playing the game from starting position to train how to get out of a position or into a position?
So we do from starting position and from the clinch, sometimes from double underhook. I'd say those are the only positions we've been using as.
Yeah, I did want to run through this, Jen. It brings up something. I wanted to just say, suppose we're in the clinch for Alona, especially in the moving step. You ready? 1 foot forward, and let's get in the clinch. Okay. And when she gets an underhook, can you just show some different directions, your ideas from an underhook? Okay, so we start off. Let's start off right. Now we go here. She gets her underhook. That's what she wants. Now, can you say some different moves from the underhook? Like how would you what would you call the moves from the underhook?
Okay, before we jump on this, just to finish the last thing, Alona, for your moving step, start to play with James or anybody having you from the back, and then you have to escape and get into the front. And the only goal is you turning around, and their only goal is obviously to move you out. You can limit the things that they can do.
You mean me grabbing her like this?
Yeah, have her from behind, and have her from either hip control or even arm having the arms around, because sometimes they may let you do that. In Taiwan, they do spin around the whole body. So just Alona.
What I wanted to clarify that rule, because we're having some confusion in playing with different people about whether the arm has to come up here for the underhook or whether the arm can go across all the way to the other side for the underhook.
I've definitively had it across. There was a rule about crossing the spine, but that's one of those concepts that is so I think the language is incorrect. I think there's something that some American tournaments are like, oh, he crossed the spine, stop. They do not do that in my experience in Taiwan. Okay. What they have said, if I did get called on something like that, it wasn't because I had my arm simply behind, or maybe it was, and maybe the judges just never noticed every other time I did it. But in general, I would say for our neutralization conversation, the hand on the spine or across the spine is massively important. And that's part of the reason we have this bar here. But just in general, for the sake of finishing the conversation of playing from different positions, Alona, definitely play from behind and spin to get your chest forward. So literally just making sure that your goal doesn't have to be to get somebody out. It's just you turning your chest, your heart to the opponent. That's it, as fast as you can. And recognizing, and Max can talk about this in more detail too, because he's done, very scientific wrestling. But essentially, knowing how to step, to make your opponent step, and then to reverse your step. Essentially like you step left, they step left, and now they've opened up a hole on the right. So if you're here, your opponent's here, you step before them, they follow you, and then you reverse it, and now they're here. So just doing things like that. And there's footwork, clarity on the footwork, the opponent will follow. Yeah, so James, if you
I'm trying to hold her. Okay.
Yeah, hold her. So Alona, step to your left. Great, James, follow to the left to stay behind her, and now step to your right, Alona. Great, awesome. So once you do that step to your right, you've cleared the opponent. So you step left, they step, you step right. You've cleared. Now you're going to retract the leg to turn your chest to them. Exactly.
And what's the limit on this move? Okay, let's do this. I'm sorry. We'll go with this, and then I'll have another question. Ready, go. Do it.
Okay.
So on a drill like that, James, your focus on following her has to be very tight, meaning that James, I'm you. Alona steps left, I step left. She steps right, I step right. So yeah, you're cutting. Yeah, there you go. Nice, Alona. Awesome.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and Alona, remember once you do that spin, then you actually have to hit the technique properly. So that means that you spin out and you're spinning, your chest is there, and now you do the technical push hand stuff, which means that you've spun out, your heart's facing them, drop the hip, push forward and up.
Yeah.
So and then you can either push them or run them back, because running them and there's a bunch of football. I mean, even for your sprinting drills, are you guys doing any of the sprinting drills with your hands on like the push sprinting drills?
What's that?
So take the rooting drill we just did. Hands on the shoulders. And one of you is going to drop the hips below and run the opponent back. The other person is going to do the rooting drill going backwards. So stepping.
I'm just running you back.
So James is the one running back right now because of the position. And so Alona, you're rooting as he's running you back. And you're trying to minimize his speed and pressure. You're trying to root him into the ground as he's running you back. And James, every step for you is you dropping your hips and pushing up. Whoa, whoa. So you're dropping and running. And you can do this in varying degrees, meaning that you can run, you can do it lightly and warm up with a run. So in other words, one person's just hands on the shoulders, the other one's running. That's a very basic running exercise. But then we bring the rooting drill into it.
Yeah, it could be like that. So switch sides. Can you do the rooting drill?
Plugging this in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and remember that if you're actually outside in a place where you can actually run, you're actually running. So yeah, exactly. And it's a balancing game for you guys, for anyone who's doing it, to figure out how to implement the Tai Chi mechanics that we're talking about, the actual very precise, like drop the hip, push up across the shoulder and over the shoulders 45 degrees, and get the rooting drill per step. Every single step, you should feel like you're rooting into the ground if you're receiving the push. And so eventually it becomes like a really hard pushing drill, but it can also be done as a basic running drill for like a runner to build some strength. Starting. No.
How am I supposed
Don't let your frustration show.
So yes, homework. We'll do it outside when we have room.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's good. I'm getting my heart rate up now. That's
Awesome.
what I need.
Yeah, and there are like little carries you can do as well. You said you were running and carrying each other. You can do the same thing from like the back and do that stuff. So all that stuff is great, but this one in particular really bridges the mechanics of what we're doing, especially for you, Alona, for the live, for you like playing push hands live with you know, in moving step. Like there's just going to be a lot of people trying to blast at you. Or there should be at the very least. And if you're trained for that, you're going to be able to blast at them in this way. So that's going to be great. Let's go back to the concept of the underhook you were talking about, and that will lead us right into neutralization. I know, James, you asked for some techniques from the underhook, but let's talk about the first technique of that's thematically aligned with what we're with the intention for today, which is like
this is going to be easy to remember, so we can come right back to this. I just have one quick question, because if that video that starts out every time I go to your website, it's the picture of Josh in this controversy. Was it here or was it here? you know, that one with the referee, Master Chen comes over and, you know, everybody tries to get involved in this call, you know, where it's a throw like this or something. What are we allowed to do? Can I throw her like this? Can I slip my leg in, you know, and throw her this way?
You can, yeah.
Okay.
But
and is there a limit to where my arm can go? Because in the video with Josh, they keep pointing like here or here. There's some controversy about whether it was low enough or, and then did not go into the judo technique.
Well, I don't know how the rules would change necessarily for this year, because remember there was a whole, we're still unsure, even though tons of time Tusho gave us like the definitive hey like wrist to wrist elbow, but remember there was a whole conversation of there's a new starting position. So
that's what we've been drilling this way now.
The new starting position, and this is what we think it is.
This is what we think the starting position. So we're only drilling this, and we've given up this drill. Should we go back to this drill too? Like, so we have it both.
I would do both, because remember Nacho sent over the one, and then Tuisho sent over one.
And they're different.
Yeah, but Tuisho, like, you know, his family's like really a part of the commission. Okay. So, you know, there's
wrist to wrist, watch band to watch band.
Yeah, the way we've played for years. But again, like I would train both.
Okay.
And just I would obviously there's differences in both that but so therefore there's different strategies in both. Just for moving step, it's not going to be as much of an issue, but for fixed step, it very much is going to have a lot and just a lot of impact. So I would play with your basic strategies here. I would start out the thing you're comfortable with, and then adapt your strategies to the thing that you're that's newer. That's what I recommend.
Okay.
So neutralization from underhook. I think that's really the first technique to me is always the one that keeps you safe, and that's kind of always how I've thought since I was a teenager, because the thing that gave me confidence in Tai Chi is knowing that I could stand with somebody and like be safe even if they look scary. So I always think about keeping myself safe first, which is why like aiming for the elbows is like key, because you control the whole body standing up from elbow control.
Quick bathroom break. Should be right back.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Bathroom.
Yeah. That's why I was just having trouble when I was pushing on the bladder there. Okay. So let's see. Let me think of some good questions for you while I've got you alone.
Sure.
That's a great drill. This one for the to get my my sprinting, my anaerobic capacity is a real challenge. You know, I'm wondering what I'm going to run into. I'm mostly just playing with Michael Weston, who I sent you the videos of. He's a really strong player, and with Ilona, two different body types, one man, one woman. Michael has a very unorthodox style. I mean, it doesn't even, I don't think it's going to last. I think he's got some bad positions, but he's able to make him work because of his athleticism. And, you know, I'm not able to overtake it completely yet. But he's improving a mile a minute with us every time he comes to play us. You know, do you have any, like these things? I think that's going to be much for what you're doing right now for my shoulders. Any advice on how to rehab these muscles to get into this tournament without, you know, my peak state? Because I feel like I overdid it, you know, punching the heavy bag. I think I just have to leave that out of my regimen right now. I'm not punching it at all right now. But do you have any advice on right here? It used to be like deeper muscles I would feel after push hands all the time. But right now it's the anterior deltoids.
Well, here, I'm going to do a stretch right after this last rep. So are you doing any?
Oh, and yoga. That goes right for it. Maybe get on the physio ball. Where's my physio ball? Here it is. I should probably do this more too. Just play around on the ball. Spend more time like this.
Are you doing your shoulder stretches such as this? And I highly recommend too, even like, you know, what you're doing right now. Every time you combine techniques, uh, I always recommend a solid, having a solid experience of the technique on its own first. So like you're rolling on the ball and you're doing the stretch, being able to do the stretch first with your
Okay.
alignment,
Okay.
it's going to get you the most out of it, and then you can start to add to other things. So, and when I say full alignment, even like checking your hips right now, like imaginary string lifting you from the top of the head first, and having that awareness, the relaxation cascading down the spine, so that you feel your center line awareness and you feel your feet anchored in it's absolute Tai Chi stance, feet shoulder width apart and parallel. And this is, to me, it's all about personal geometry first, because once you understand your personal geometry and how you relate to a space, then when you do your stretches, you can calculate what needs help and how can you help it based on your awareness of personal geometry. So I always go across my body and I cup right here, and I only energize the fingers when I need to. Otherwise, I'm doing my best to keep the arm limp, and I energize the fingers to just maintain this. I'm bending over just so you can see, maintain my concept of center. So my nose, my eyes, my heart are all facing forward. My feet are parallel, and I'm inhaling deep into the belly, and I exhale, push the breath as a color through my shoulder. So I'm inhaling deep, exhaling, pushing through my shoulder, because I really want to make sure my shoulders were used to be the strongest part of my body. And it's only because I've had a bunch of lifestyle changes in my training and my work that I've lost some strength there. So I have to rebuild. And so one of the biggest values is having shoulder flexibility in my experience. And so I'm here, I'll even bend down so I'm square on my knees. I'm coming across and I'm exhaling, softening this shoulder so it doesn't lift up. And I make sure my hips are aligned so that my lower dantian, I can feel it really clearly. So all my stretches, I do my best to make sure that if I deviate, and this comes into neutralization, this comes into all pretty much my whole push hand strategy, is that if I deviate from an intentional posture, that deviation is intentional. So I know my personal geometry. I'm super aware of that, so that when I touch somebody, I know how I've deviated from my personal geometry, or how I've locked into how my personal geometry connects to them. So all these little motions, I do my best not to casually stretch. I'll casually stretch only as an alternative to sitting. Like I'm watching you guys and I'm casually stretching because I want to watch you guys, but I also want to get some work in. But the casual stretching is not nearly as effective for me in how I play push hands as like the highly intentional personal geometry aware stretching. So I'm like inhaling into the belly, exhale, pushing color through the muscle so that I can program that color to do something in the muscle, like soften the tendons, soften the muscle fibers, melt any tension away. And this one is super helpful for the back part of my shoulder as well, through the shoulder blade. If you do this one, and I soften that one out as well. And the technique here is you just take the hand, back of the hand, put it on the kidney, and then you walk the fingers down from the shoulder all the way down to the elbow, as if you're gently pulling the shoulder very gently out of the socket. So as I walk, my intention is to drag. I'm sticking. Every finger is sticking, and I'm pulling gently down to the corner. And I take that vector and then I redirect that vector. So the vector is down now, down to the corner 45, and I lift it up 45. So I never stopped the pressure. I just redirected it, and then exhale, pull it out. And I do my best to keep my heart, my nose, and my eyes aligned forward the whole time. Inhale deep, exhale. And I'm not warm right now, or too warm. So, this has definitely saved me from a lot of injury. I got thrown by Dan once in big throw by Dan and on the '04 team at the 23rd Street School, Master Chen's. And I like went across the entire push hands class and like rolled, and people thought I broke my arm, but it was because of this stretch that I could like, get out of the roll pretty simply in the bottom. So if you do jujitsu, the omoplata, this stretch is excellent at helping you defend against the omoplata.
Now, Ilona, I wanted to get to the underhooks, but Ilona has a priority that she mentioned just now. Did you want to say something about what you need?
We did. I was just saying that we do need to wrap up soon, but I wanted to get to the neutralization.
Yeah, here we go.
Mentioning and whatever you wanted with the stick.
Sure. So the stick is my way of being able to help with the neutralization. So I think sticks are great because a lot of neutralization, in my experience, well, I think the challenge with certain terminology in Tai Chi is that a lot of people have a different definition for it. So I would that was why I started thinking about the concept of tricking. Like you're essentially dissipating someone's energy with a rooting drill. You're dissipating someone's energy with neutralization. But how are you dissipating the energy? Because we only talk about that. It sounds foo-foo. So what I notice in my play is that I'm creating a pressure circuit so that somebody who is putting pressure on me feels like I'm heavy, but it's really just how I'm redirecting them back into themselves. And so this stick, any stick, the great thing about it is if I get this position, which would be the underhook across the spine. So this is the same thing as the underhook across the spine. If you and James were to connect right now, my palm would be on the lower back. I could even put this on my palm. And this, if I were to do this, for example, if I were to move from this, which is its own technique, that's different than this. So Ilona, if you put your hand on James's body, if you were to do that, this side of the arm, once you guys get into a 50-50 clinch, yeah. Awesome. So we're in the 50-50. And so you're an underhook. So James, Ilona, so his arm is over yours, right?
Okay, so we're switching sides. So
cool. Awesome.
Okay.
So all this surface area now is really important because you're sticking, and this is what I would call this. You know how we have yin fingers and yang fingers? We could talk about it like that, and I will come up with better language for it later. But essentially, this is the yin. This is the soft side that is connected and can move with the.
Lost you for a second. It's frozen.
Oh,
there we go. Left again. You're back.
Okay, cool. So what I'm getting at is that let's focus on the yang first. So I have this stick. I have this pressure on the lower back. And
me too. It's just spilled milk, literally.
Okay. Well, why don't you grab the stick real quick? Let's talk about this with the stick. So one side stick goes on the shoulder, the other side goes on the palm. And so now when you're here like this, you can think of this as the small of the back of the opponent. And this is your shoulder on their chest. So as you reach these fingers in and roll like a gentle scooping, as if I'm scooping this way, but I'm going to keep this on the ground. So I'm going to give myself a little more pressure. I'm doing a gentle scooping motion with the fingers sticking to the small of the back and rolling the muscles and skin up. And as that roll happens, notice that there's more pressure here on your shoulder. So it's this type of motion that starts to create these small neutralization moments. And my hips, I can relax into it, keeping in other words, my lower back, I can keep it out, or I can keep it in, I can keep it out, but it's all, and each one of those, that adjustment, if I bring it in or drop it down, all of that affects how the opponent's going to react. And what we're talking about, this yin part here, is going to help you stick to the opponent or keep in and stick and make them feel like you're always connected to their arm so that they can't lift their arm. You might even lift up a little bit and come back down. So there's meaning that your hand, you're going to follow their arm out here and come back down. So this makes you a very sticky type of opponent, and can be really helpful if to confuse somebody who's trying to do a grappling technique, quote unquote, on you. What I mean by that is that a push hands technique or any grappling style, they don't necessarily have the same type of sensitivity drills like push hands. Like push hands is a very unique sensitivity drill. So if you're doing your soft push hands and you're following, this is a great way. These neutralization concepts are a great way to adapt that into the very real grappling experience. So what I would do here is, I think neutralization has to do with what you're looking to neutralize. So like, I think as a baseline, that underhook position is you using this to control the T on the opponent's chest. And the T is the distance between, your center line and the distance between the shoulders on the chest. Mm-hmm. So controlling that T, sometimes we say like turning a wheel, like turning the opponent like a wheel, but we can break it down to, hey, there's a T on the chest through the shoulders, and now we're going to move that T wherever we want. And this posture is really helpful at neutralizing the techniques before they begin, because you're sticking and you're inserting yourself into the opponent's experience. And then you can put some pressure in and turn this underhook into your own throws. Like, this is a great way to roll. You can roll your chest up. You still have your hand on the small of the back. And then you can create a little distance for yourself and step across it and roll them over your leg. Yep. And you can switch and pummel to the other side, pummeling in. You can switch this and make this an arm, meaning that if you need to step out, notice that we have we have this arm circuit drill that we've done before.
Yeah.
Where we were doing this a few weeks ago. We're reaching up and coming across, up and then coming around and flicking down. So we have this, and you can practice that as well. So these are all this is what we would call a structural lock. And so I think neutralization, rooting drills, neutralization, and structural lock, those three things have a lot of in common, because structural locks are locks without grabbing. So I'm not like grabbing anything with my hands or my fingers to create a brace. I'm literally just creating a structure. And by nature of the structure, the person pushes into me and starts neutralizing themselves. So all I have to do is minimal reaching, minimal energizing to maintain that. So going from small of the back. And let me ask you a question too. What kind of techniques do you feel like you would like to neutralize in your? What are you experiencing where you wish that you could say, hey, you know what? How could I stop that? How can I neutralize that? How can I just dissipate that energy or that technique?
Yeah, I feel like I'm making progress on neutralizing the being turned, which we're calling the crank. So that was a big one for me. I think the inflating the abdomen idea, like that, applied there too. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because we talked about that more as a refutation for I think that is what we talked about, right? So okay, so this is the question, right? I'm in the underhook. James has an underhook on me, and he wants to turn me like that. So I think what we talked about was expanding the belly in.
Can you guys keep that position? Just turn so I can see the other side of you.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
The other question I was finding was, okay, getting out of things. I was making the correction for myself of making space. So moving my hip back first in order to transition. It's sort of that more of a transition than a neutralization, but it's trying to escape.
So I have well, let's just go back 1 second. You said something about the belly. What did you mean by like use the belly?
And yeah, what did you call? So you were saying you use the small of the back, you expand the belly to eat that space, sort of.
Oh,
So
so hold on. Let's really work here. So you have this position, and along the theme of keeping yourself safe, the concept for me of keeping myself safe is controlling or muffling my opponent's moves so that the thing that they want to do to me doesn't happen. And I'm confident that I can make that happen over and over again. So therefore, I feel safe. So this posture, meaning that hand on small of the back, shoulder connected to the opponent's shoulder, or potentially to somewhere between the opponent's shoulder and their sternum. Let's consider that the play area for that for you right now, Alona. So here I'm rolling this in, and my shoulder is pushing back or rolling. I'm rolling here, down and in. I'm rolling up here. And I'm rolling up here so that my intention is still to put my opponent's shoulders over their hips. And so that position, there's the 50-50 clinch, and then there's that position where you start to neutralize the center line. And I think we just came to a terminology for it. You start to play with collapsing their center line from the 50-50 clinch with this gentle roll in the shoulder, and your chest, your rib cage, all of it, everything can come into play. Even your belly can come into play. But the main thing that you're looking for is how can I get this person to step where I want them to step, or to fall over their hips? How can I get their shoulder to fall over their hips? And this is keeping you safe from other moves that they might do because you're listening the entire time. So you're listening to them. You have this other hand that's listening. You have this part of the arm. All of this is listening, but you still have your foundational or sattvic thought, like that main thing that you're working on here, is the role and the control. And it's not so much that you want to push them all the way over, it's that you want to get them to a point where they feel discomfort. Because the main thing you want to do is get someone in a state of discomfort so they start making rash decisions. And so if that's the only thing we're looking for psychologically, then all you have to do is find that, because it's not so much that you're going for a move right now. And the neutralization is happening from a psychological standpoint. So that to me is like key for, because rooting drills, we have so many angles that you can fire the rooting drill from. There's so many different structural locks. And there's so many different ways to neutralize moves. But what we're really talking about is just getting somebody into a headspace that you feel comfortable they're in, because you know that they're going to make, they're going to be making decisions under pressure, under greater pressure that you're controlling.
Mm-hmm. Neutralizing the center line. And I appreciate this one because it's with that little up vector too. It's that scoop up.
Yeah, you want to. This is a scoop up, because remember, you can even do this. You can do this scoop up by itself, and that's its own move to get people to move. And then the shoulder line, people do this all the time. You can play, and you're playing with the shoulder. So now you're just adding both. You're adding this, and you're being aware that this can stick if need be to anything. If your opponent has the hand on the elbow, or they're trying to grab you here, they're trying to grab you here, you can play with them here to make them feel like something's happening. But what's really happening is you're controlling the center line. And then if you start to step, and if you're playing push hands, you start to move them and step a little bit into them. Again, you can go for whatever move you want to go for, but the purpose of this is simply to get them to feel like their hips and their shoulders are not aligned, and they want to get back to a state of comfort so that they can actually do stuff on you. So it's important once you set that up for you to have your own strategy of like things you want to do to them.
Totally. And yeah, we've been doing like techniques of things I want to do to people this whole time. But then when I get into live playing, I'm like,
things you want to do to people. That's
remember great. To root, remember to neutralize, like play the way you actually play, and don't just like concentrate on that one move I'm working on. You know what I mean? Like, so this is really nice to just keep refining that part of the game, which I think is really what I started with, you know.
I'm really, really excited for you. I think I think you are the best female player in the States. I really do. And I think that you know, there's so much opportunity for you beyond this, and even for like the next tournament, but like right now staying focused on this one. I think that, you know, it's just a matter of consistently refining more and more what you want to do, you know, like doing less and doing it more beautifully and more exacting. So, you know, just let me know if there's a what if your top 5 moves have changed. Let me know, and just send me a text with what the top 5 moves are. You can just think about them, because that'll be helpful, and separate into 2 categories: top 5 fixed, top 5 moving. And let's think about that. And then it's like, okay, how do we get to how many different ways can we get to those moves? Especially for this month, it's like, okay, what are the ways that work best for your body? And then, you know, finding 3 to 5 of those, and then just being very confident in those, because it's the simple things that are going to get the big win. And the underhook, I don't think there's going to be a lot of players that you're going to come up against that are going to do this kind of stuff. This is a very like how would I put it? Taiwanese play like this very well, but differently. I have felt in my experience more of a rushed energy from the Taiwanese play, being the best in the world. But like when they're coming in for body to body contact, there's a lot more rushing than there is. In my experience, then there is like highly technical. They're doing the general concept. They're really great at it, but like the wrestlers kind of like T on the chest, control, like blasting through a particular, you know, put your sternum on someone's shoulder kind of thing, or your shoulder on a sternum. Like these really precise moments, I don't feel as much in the body to body contact. I feel it more so in their arm drags and their footwork and their cranks, which are all very, very finesse driven. So I think that you're going to have an advantage. That's what I'm getting at having a very precise game on body to body 50-50 clinch work. So
yeah, so we'll keep using that.
It looks like you guys got a family day to get to. Fair.
All right, Bear needs some attention.
Love you guys so much. Send you the video in a bit, and let me know if you have any questions. And James, you too, if anything has changed in your top 5 for fixed step, just write it down again and send it to me, please. And it'll be helpful exercise for you, and then we can start thinking about more ways to get you into those top 5 positions.
Okay.
You know, or more efficient ways. Okay.
Great.
I love you guys so much.
Big hug.
Big hugs.
Yeah, and let me know if we want to do it again this week, and we'll do it.
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
Bye.
Bye.